And thank you for joining us and staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott, bringing you truth for our time. We're talking today, we spoke earlier with Greg Cummings from the Tea Party Patriots, and now joining us is Ken Canfield. Ken is the founder of the National Center on Fatherhood, and of course, next Sunday is Father's Day. And so, Ken, thank you so much for taking time out to stop in and join us.
I'm delighted, and it's great to hear the work you're doing to bolster and strengthen Iowa fathers, grandfathers, and father figures.
Thank you so much. Now, you have been on the national spectrum of building up the role of men. And, of course, you know, one of my other hats is the State Director of Concerned Women for America. We're that women's group that likes men, and we actually honor the role of the father in the home. And it's so often misunderstood. You know, the biblical role of a family, some people like to try and say that, you know, the man is dominant and the woman is a servant, and that's not the way it is. There's a omission out there that when your husband truly loves you as God loved the church, he will do anything for you, die for you, and he wants what's best for you as a wife, and he'll help you find that ministry and role God has for you, which really makes the family strong. Strong women make even stronger men.
That's right. I mean, you hit the nerve center right there, and this is a tough one for men. I don't think there's anything more humbling for a woman than to bear and birth a child. Mm-hmm. We know the pain, we know the stress, we know the nurture that first few years and in caring for a young child. In a similar path, men need to recognize the road to fatherhood is true greatness, and it's expressed in humility. When you humble yourself as a servant to the caretaker of your children and generations to come, and in partnership with your wife, take up, the responsibility of proactive fathering, you're going to be remembered, and your life will have a lasting impact, more so than building businesses and getting fame and so forth. And it's so encouraging that you're focusing on, everyday dads can make changes that will be super and have impacts that will go long beyond their life.
Absolutely. And Ken, you and I both know the results of having fatherless families. We see it with our prisons. We see it in the schools. We see it with drug use. We see it now, teen suicide. We just see so many issues where the family is hurting and society pays the cost. So here we are in the mess we are because of our neglect, because of our rebellion, selfish, wicked ways. We just wanted what was happiness for us as an adult, not thinking long-term for our children often. And as one man said, there are no illegitimate children. There are illegitimate parents.
Oh, well said.
What would you say to those dads out there?
Well, several things. First of all, dads, the opportunity you have in being a father figure is something that will distinguish you as a man. Every man over the age of 18 is a father figure. You don't have to have a biological child to exercise this, what I call father power, healthy father power, as you engender the next generation. The gender identity that we're endowed with comes from our father. Certainly, what's going on in the womb is mystical and so forth, but that contribution you make and that connection over the long haul really brings out the beauty and the femininity in women and the masculinity and strength in men. This is biologically not debatable. It's very, very clear. In addition, as you begin to take up that responsibility, others will applaud. Now, not every day. You talk to any mother of a 2 or 3-year-old, they don't say after getting their diaper changed or nose wiped, "Oh, thank you, Mother, for doing this." But I guarantee as children go through the life course, as they mature, there will be those golden moments like touches of heaven where they'll turn and say, "Thank you, Dad, for doing what you did. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for being there for me." And this is so important to you. It's life-giving, it's life-extending, and it's something that you shouldn't miss. Chasing after so many of the mirages, the material mirages that this culture puts in our way. Oh, you need more stuff, or you need more power, you need baloney. When you start tuning in to the hearts of children, your heart will be changed and transformed.
Powerful. Ken Canfield is my guest. He's the founder of the National Center on Fatherhood. We're talking about the role of dads. Ken, talk to those dads who maybe don't live in-house with their children. It seems, that's so common anymore, and it's so unfortunate. But talk to those dads. Of course, the perfect role is to have that intact family, biological parents of the child in a healthy relationship in the same home. Think this through, folks. You're asking your child to bounce back and forth between two homes. You know how it is, even when you go on a wonderful vacation, it feels good to get home to have a landing spot. Yeah. Our kids too often don't have that. But, Ken, here we are in too many situations. Talk to these dads about what they can do if they are removed from that home.
Yeah, certainly you're facing complex family system challenges. First and foremost, consistency is key. It's an attribute. Your consistency and predictability in showing up to pick up the children, pay child support, doing the things, calling them, sending them notes, and being there is so, so important. Second, still value and respect. I don't know what your situation may be. Your child's mother may have jumped the fence for greener pastures. Nevertheless, talking down and denigrating her is going to have a negative impact on your children. Don't go there. Take the high road. Esteem that child and do what you can do. Now, if you're in a new marriage or if you're anticipating that or new relationship, make that a high-quality relationship. And I'll tell you why. If there's a second marriage, if you make it work, if it is different because you have made changes, it will send a message to your children and those watching you that marriage can work, that you can overcome, you can work through some stuff. Now, there are confounding challenges facing dads, when they're long distance, like my oldest son who was deployed in a hardship tour for a year in Afghanistan, and the reentry process with his daughter and his wife. There are other things when work will call you, and those things need to be dealt with as you begin to bring yourself back into the family system again in a humble, respectful way. And so those are a few ideas for dads that are in that fragile position. And this is a prayer I pray regularly because I know and work and I feel like you do for those fathers. In the Old Testament, there's this passage that relates to the prophet Elijah. The closing words of the Old Testament is that before the great and dreadful day of the Lord, the prophet Elijah will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to the fathers. Well, I know that's an archetype for, this passion that we need to bring. But get this. Elijah had a protege. His name was Elisha. He was the apprentice. And before Elijah was transliterated from the planet, Elisha said this, "Grant me, Master, a double portion of your spirit." So listen up. Stepdads, divorced dads, non-custodial dads, I pray regularly. God would give you a double portion of his spirit for the challenges you face. And I've seen it happen over and over again. When you ask and open your heart, he will do just that.
Oh, Ken, perfect advice. Absolutely perfect advice. And I do, that passage is that like the very end of the Old Testament? I don't have my Bible in studio today. But I think
yes, it's Malachi 4, 5, and 6.
Malachi 4, 5, and 6. And you know what? Here we are talking about the scriptures, but what a perfect way for each of you as fathers, as mothers. Mothers, lift up the men in your household. Don't tear them down in front of your children. They're not perfect, absolutely. That's why God decided they needed us as a helpmate. But don't tear them down in front of your children. And I try to remember when I see the imperfections in my own husband, thank heavens he has a few or he would have no time for me.
Well, you've got a great husband. I know the guy. He's first class. I like him.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But he has spent his lifetime giving, making sure his family had what they needed first. I've personally seen the sacrifice. And, you talked about that golden moment. We had it just last evening with my son and his daughter. I've always laughed and said, your children won't appreciate you until they're the ones being abused and neglected by their children, right? Then they know what a role you played. Well, he's not even at that point yet. He's just enjoying a young baby who's not even a year old. But he realizes already the cost of parenting with time, with devotion, with decisions that you make. And so because his dad, as you said, did a job well done, his son sees it.
I want to key off one word that you just said, and this is kind of the Father's Day gift I would challenge all listeners with. In looking at neurophysiology, and that's what's going on in our brain, the brain is a mastery of work that God put in each of us. But that neuronal activity, that is the neurons, light up when you express joy and appreciation to others. Now, you can do this today with coworkers and friends, but when you do it in a family, it has supernatural power. Now, let me explain. When researchers years ago identified characteristics that distinguished healthy, strong families, one of the characteristics of 6 that they discovered was that they expressed appreciation to each other regularly. So this is the challenge. I want you to think of ways you appreciate your husband for his father. I want you to think of ways you appreciate your father figure, your grandfather. And as we kind of inch up to Father's Day, express appreciation to those men. And I guarantee it endows them with a sense of confidence and honor and respect that they'll just, man up to whatever challenge is there. So the simple appreciation, and of course it works vice versa, appreciating your wife and all that she does and those around you. But this appreciation that you mentioned has unique power in lighting up the neurons in your brain. And when joy comes over you, faith, it just brings happiness to a room.
Thank you so much for that and positive. I have in front of me the quick story of Jonathan Edwards, famous early American, only son out of 11 children, a minister, his wife a Christian. He was also the president of Princeton University. They had 11 children between he and his wife. He always took time with his children every day in the father chair. And of his descendants, he had more than 300 become pastors, missionaries, theological professors, 65 professors at various universities, 100 attorneys, a dean of a law school, 56 physicians, 60 prominent authors, 30 judges, 80 holders of office, 3 served in U.S. senators, 3 mayors of large cities, 3 governors, 1 comptroller of the U.S. Treasury. Contrast that with Max Jukes, Jukes, a contemporary, known atheist, lived a godless life, married an ungodly girl, had in his ancestry 310 died as paupers, 150 were convicted criminals, 7 were murderers, 100 were drunkards, more than half of the women were prostitutes. His 540 descendants cost the state $1.25 million at that time. Would that be the contemporary of Jonathan Edwards? We have only a minute left, Ken Canfield, but fatherhoods make a difference. Families make a difference on our culture.
Well, and let me just say this. Marriage to a Difficult Man is a book about being married to Jonathan Edwards, I think, who shoulders the joy of having such great posterity is Jonathan's wife. Now, he was a hard-driving guy, but his wife was kind of that buffer, what is needed in a family. So it lifts us up to the final. If you're a father, you want to be the best father you can be. I would say respect the mother of your children, regardless of where she is or what the situation is. And if you have the privilege of living with her, say with a smile quietly after you've celebrated this Father's Day, honey, this wouldn't have been possible without you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ken, wonderful, perfect. Your timing was actually excellent. We're out of time here. I hope you will come back and join us again.
I will.
Ken Canfield, the founder of National Center on Fatherhood. You can find him, fathers.com. Fathers.com. Is there any other way they can get a hold of you, Ken? We might have lost him. He already stepped away. Well, my thanks to him for joining us. You have the opportunity to make the best for your family this week. Go out and do it. You've been given great information. Be encouraged and never be complacent.